Yeah, we can see it now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
And the rest of you, can you please mute your mics while Ton is talking? Thank you.
Okay. All right. So these two projects will be discussed in this presentation. And this is how I suggest we go about it. I'll say a few words about the raison d'etre of these projects, and then we'll look at iPAC in particular. Then halfway we'll have a discussion led by Suzanne with the people who were kind enough to prepare for this session and do the tasks that I set them as in a workshop. It's a flipped webinar, more or less. Then I will relate this iPAC, which is, of course, a general pedagogical framework, to what we see in terms of MALL framework, so specifically for language learning. And then finally, we'll look at the follow-up of this project MTTEP, in which iPAC was created, and look at the DEIMP project, which is particularly about what exactly is innovative mobile learning. Now then, mobilizing and transforming teacher education pedagogies. Based on a very important publication, 2012, by Koenraad et al., where the need was recognized of informing teacher education on how they could actually prepare, especially initial student teachers, to the innovation that mobiles could bring to education. And what was needed at the time was a model on how to design mobile learning, because the device has certain affordances that are different from desktops and other devices. So as a professional community, we needed a language that could help us to talk and to exchange views on mobile learning. And it was also needed that schools could go beyond their own internal group of teachers that, of course, how schools work, you know that. Someone starts and then more people join in, and then slowly you try to exchange experiences, etc. But beyond that, of course, there is often no information exchange. So that was another reason why this project was thought to be necessary. And then teachers who preach, teacher education institutions were slow to actually realize that mobiles would conquer the world, and therefore in their curricula were not acting as a model. So, and that is seen as, well, having the most impact, in fact, on the growth of student teachers to be involved in actual mobile activities, so that once they are in practice, they will remember, and it will be much more, they will have internalized that sort of approaches. So focusing now on one of the key results of this project, we'll have a look at the mobile learning toolkits for educators, the iPAC framework. This is what it looks like, and these three constructs that you can watch here, they are key to what we call the characteristics of mobiles, the affordances that support these elements. Now you can see this authenticity, collaboration, and personalization, and their subconstructs which are in the outer ring, which we'll look at individually now. Now, key in all this, the center, of course, is the fact that time and space get a different meaning with mobiles, rather than at a set time being in a classroom or a specific space. This becomes all fluent, which helps, of course, to personalize stuff. You can make your own choices, which apps, which websites to visit. You can be more self-directed, and things can be just in time. There are a number, you can see these keywords of elements that are related to personalization. Authenticity, obviously, for language teachers, that is a well-known concept. So it is something that, especially, for instance, since the task-based approaches is of enormous importance in language learning and teaching. So that certainly is an element that we can adopt easily. Another element that belongs to this is task and context and tools, sorry. So here again, using tools that are realistic, meaning also being used in real life, of course, is also for language teaching very important. Finally, collaborations. Well, here again, that's something that we know very well in language learning, collaborative learning as a general pedagogical approach, but certainly also in language learning with nowadays even telecollaboration as being rather popular. Now, other elements of the iPAC results are the survey tool, which helps us to analyze a practice that we have designed ourselves, or we could ask others to look at a practice we created, so that we can have a professional discussion about the artifact, the design that has been created, and in that way inform local practice. Now, I suggest that, before just mentioning the other elements of the results, there's also a section with video case studies, and there's some ebooks that are freely available, produced by the MTTEP project. Now, I suggest that this is the moment when we move to the Padlet page that goes with this presentation. And Suzanne, have you been kind enough to put the link in the chat as well?
I can do that right now.
And if not, you see the link here, and I don't know what device you're using, but there's a QR code if that's helpful.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Then I think, Suzanne, I stop sharing here, and you could take over and perhaps also briefly introduce the background of this activity, what went before, and how we end up here. Okay?
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right. So my name is Suzanne. I'm a teacher from the Netherlands, and today Ton has asked me to share the discussion with you. And to do that, we are going to, or we've asked you to have a look at a video. Oh, I'm going to share again, otherwise you can't hear the audio of the video. Share computer sound. Sorry, it suddenly makes a lot of noise. Okay.
So this is our case.
Yeah, so this is our case, and it's a video about a project of a German-French exchange. And we've asked the attendees here to have a look at this and fill out the iPAC survey to see what design choices were made by the teachers, and to have a look if our responses were the same, and that's what we'll have a discussion about. So let's have a look at the video first, and you should hear audio from the video as well.
Die heißt Jacques und das ist die Klasse, mit der wir sprechen werden.
Wer ist es, die
Das sind verschiedene Kinder, die müssen wir jetzt alle noch kennenlernen. Ich kenne sie auch noch nicht alle. Die lernen wir noch kennen. Hier seht ihr ein Bild aus dem Klassenzimmer. Das sind die Schüler. Die können alle Französisch, sind ja Franzosen. Aber die lernen gerade auch Englisch, so wie wir auch.
My name is Leni. I'm 7 years old. My favorite color is red. I live in Hello, my name is Lola. I am 9 years old. I come from France in Antibes. Go. Hello, my name is Thibault. Thibault. I am 8 years old. I live in Antibes.
I like chocolate and Coca-Cola. My favorite color is purple.
That's purple. That's red.
Hello, number 17 is Isabel. She is 10 years old. She lives in Germany. She likes swimming. Her favorite color is blue.
Number 11 is Samuel. He is 10 years old. He lives in Germany. His favorite color is green. He likes playing computer.
He's 7 years old. Girl. Your favorite color is red? Yes. My name is Hannah. I'm 6 years old. My favorite color is red.
Okay, so that was the project that we are looking at, and like I mentioned, we'd asked some of you to have a look at it and look at the iPAC survey and answer the questions, and you posted them on the Padlet. So here are my results, here are Alice's, Bruce, Valentina's. And so while it is difficult to share a look at these on the Padlet, I've made a little presentation that might be easier to use. And we are going to have a look at these results. So let me grab my pen. Yeah, so we see Bruce on the left, then Valentina, then Alice, and then Suzanne. So that's mine. And then you can think, oh, I see that there's a chat. Let's see. Mine is on your own. Oh, Alice's is on her own project. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. Was it a similar project or completely different project?
No, it was with university students. So
okay. So they were a lot older, but were they also introducing themselves or doing a similar, or was it something?
Yeah, it was business different? English, really. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Similar.
So, okay. Well, then you're going to have to improvise, Alice. And when I ask you questions, and then we can see where we can have a look at where there's an overlap, and maybe where there is not. And so let's have a look at what happens when we overlay all of these results. Let me see if I can get my mouse back. Yeah. So what we're looking at in the purple is collaboration, conversation, co-creation. Blue is personalization, agency, customization. Green is authenticity, context, and task. We might not look at all of them because it might take too long, but let's just pick out some of the things that we saw. And let's see if we can, where we agree and where we disagree. If we go to the very first one, the collaboration and conversation, we can see on the left what the questions were. So for C1, it was discuss the work online with their friends, discuss the work online with people they don't know, and then communicated with others using a variety of text. So here we see that the last one, C3, scored a little bit higher. Bruce, you scored this, you gave this one the maximum points, and C1, you gave the lowest points, so you really saw a difference between the friends and just random other people. I guess peers they didn't know in France. And there's a difference there between discussed and communicated. Which one did you pick up on? That they were communicating with others, or that in the C1 they were discussing and you thought they didn't really do that? Could you elaborate on that, Bruce?
So, yeah, elaborate. So firstly, C3, why I gave that the highest score. So,
yeah.
Okay, so you communicated with others using a variety of text. So from what I could gather from that video is that they were sending videos to each other. So that's a great element. And then also you mentioned Skype. There was a Skype at the end, and then there was a Skype at the beginning, was there?
Yep.
And I'm just assuming that there was some form of other exchange, perhaps maybe with the teacher, and that's why I gave it a high score. Yep.
Yeah, there was.
So,
sorry, there was a mix. Go ahead.
And then you said you wanted maybe to ask. You want me to talk about the other one, which I gave a lower score? No.
Yes.
Is that right?
So the C2 and the C1, you both gave a lower score.
Discuss the work online with their friends, peers. So I mean that may have been true, but I couldn't tell from the video if they discussed online, or I mean, because it was my experience of projects like this is that the students at that age only do what they're told, and maybe they weren't specifically instructed to do that. So
we'll come back to that point when we talk about agency. Yeah.
Okay. And then discuss the work online with people they don't know. Again, I didn't know the answer to that one because obviously wasn't there, but it would have been good if they had done that. And I can imagine something like that would have happened. Whether that was a NASA scientist or not, I don't know. No.
Probably
Perhaps Tom
not.
has some contacts there. But yeah, great idea. Both of all those points. I mean, if I was there, I would have given them a lot higher scores. And which actually, when I did this to begin with, I thought that it was asking questions about my own case, and I gave 3 of those the top score in my own case.
Okay, in your own case, because you would have done all of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was the main coordinator really. So okay. Thank you.
And then Valentina, you actually gave it a low score on C3 and a higher score on C1. Could you explain why you did that?
I'm muting. Okay.
Yep.
Well, I actually found that probably, as Bruce was saying, I was not there, you know, so I didn't actually see the kids interacting. But I had the feeling they were not actually interacting as a group. Okay, but it was more individual, focused on the individual, you know. So they actually had to perform something there and, you know, perform a task. But I saw it as more as an individual task than, you know, a collaborative task, because they actually had to introduce themselves instead of, you know, making a connection, trying to make a connection with others. Probably because they were very young. They are actually very young, you know. So the first thing they do is they just, you know, talk about themselves, because that word is themselves at that age, I think. You know, so that's why I gave them this lowest score. On the other side, I found that they were young, but they were very comfortable with the tool. You know, they were feeling comfortable, you know, recording and, you know, checking the others' work. So, yeah.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. I think before we move on to this point, I think in these 3 statements, there's a lot of semantics involved as well, because what's the difference between discussing and communicating? When is it a friend? When is it a peer? Because you could say that either these are students or people they don't know, or they are their peers because they're people of the same ages, I guess. Yeah. So that's something that you can have a discussion around with your fellow teachers. Let's move on to the second one.
Perhaps one point, about the collaboration. Response to Valentina. Indeed, you're right if you say collaboration did not occur between the 2 classes, apart from that they stuck to their agreements, that they both would do the same thing to each other. But the collaboration was mostly in pairs locally. So the analysis of the video sent by the others was done in pairs, because their task there was to extract enough information so that they could present this person, distant person, in their own classroom. So there was some pair work involved.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. And I think that also comes back in the co-creation bit. When you are looking at the video together, they were creating the videos together. There's quite a high score on C5, shared digital content. So they made the video, they shared it, and they made it together. Though we didn't all agree on that one. C5. Oh, I was the one who gave a low score for that. So maybe when you yourself are looking back at it, you also think, maybe I should have, I would have scored that differently, because the rest of you all gave it quite a high score. What do you think? Are there more opportunities here where you could have maybe for C4 or C6 gave it a bigger score or a higher score if they'd done something differently to the task design? Are there opportunities there?
Well, again, Suzanne, I think that C4 is really, I mean, they were very young for C4, you know, creating digital product. I thought was something more complex, you know, so that's why I gave them not such a big, a high score, because, you know, to co-create a video when you're 6 years old, it's not, I found it was, you know, a very challenging task for them, you know. So this is what I thought, that actually create a digital product, also using an iPAC is really, you know, it involves the support and the mediation of the teacher in this case.
Of course. Yeah. Definitely.
Okay, so if I may add to that, well done, Val. Sure. Yeah. So C4, yes. So the 4 examples that were given in at the end, video, podcast, photo, iBook, document. I think the reason I gave that a lower score too was because, obviously, as Val said, it wasn't that advanced. I mean, just having them talk about themselves was the first element, but not the podcast, video, iBook. I mean, they were a bit more complex. So that was why I gave that low score. And then C6, contributed to existing digital content. So you're talking about if there was any form of blog or forum or allowing them to chat together. Yeah. Well, I think that they could have been. There maybe was, but because we weren't there, we weren't involved. But from what I could see in the video, there wasn't any mention of prior contact, prior exchange via email or any other interactive way, because this is an I guess, well, the first part, it was asynchronous, not synchronous. So they weren't.
Mix. Yep.
Was it mixed? Okay. And then
the first part was asynchronous.
Okay. Yeah. So if they had some form of chat tool, doesn't have to. I guess it could have been email, but some form of like the comment section at the end of YouTube, that kind of thing. So you can do that with Vimeo, and you mentioned Vimeo somewhere in there, I think. If that was there, then that would have been good. C6, I'm not sure what score I gave that. The lower score, was it?
Yeah, you gave it the lowest.
Okay, that was fine. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. What I found with this part especially is that the images that you have in your head of what you think could be possible or what the teacher could have done really informs what score you give it. If you can't think of a way that the teacher could have improved it, then you give it a high score. If you have loads of ideas of, oh, it could have done that, then you give it a lower score. But of course, we all have different experiences and examples that we have seen. So that means that we're going to grade it differently. Would you agree on that as well? Yeah, I see some heads nodding. Yeah. Because, for example, in C4, I thought they could have created a book where all the videos were put in a collection, or in C6, there's this program called Flipgrid where you connect with more schools around the world, and then others could have contributed. But then you're always making it bigger, and of course the teacher may have just wanted to start small, and it wasn't in the task design or anything at all to really do this.
Yeah, indeed. So for your information, the teacher indeed mediated. So she collected all the videos and put those on a Google file page for the other group to see them. And to come back to C4, what it says there, for instance, and then a number of products are mentioned, there is, in my view, a digital product here, namely a selfie video. So, and of course, we have to take into consideration that we're talking about very young learners here. So there's also the element of learner fit, in the sense of, is this something that a student can manage to do? So in that sense, the answer to C4 to me is simply yes.
And then, but then the digital selfie, is that the whole thing where they communicate back and forth, or is that just the video where they introduce themselves?
Yeah, that was their task. Could you send a video to the other group about yourself? And there they collaborate to actually film each other.
Yeah. Then I think I personally had in my head when I was filling out the survey that the co-creation, when you're setting it up in different classrooms, you want the students in the different classrooms to co-create, not the students in the classrooms themselves.
Okay.
So of course, yes, they are working together to create the video. But a step beyond that would have been where the two students, but they're not old enough to do that. So we can't really expect that, maybe.
Yeah, and the reason why there is a telecollaboration is mainly to provide a real audience.
Yep. Okay. All right. Let's move on to our our next point as well: personalization and agency. Again, there were some differences in there. I scored this quite low. Valentina, you scored these quite high. Bruce, you did a mix of both. Maybe the others, like Alice and Vera, you might want to join in as well if you have any thoughts on this. So they could choose the place to do the activity. That's P1. There's a mix there. And I'm guessing all the work was done in the school, but they were able to move around. So we saw some students working in a library or in the hallway, some in the classroom. Mm-hmm. I guess they needed the space. So it was mobile, and they could choose their own backdrops and where they wanted to sit. They determined the pace at which they did the activity. I'm not really sure how much we are able to determine this, because we're not really sure what deadlines they were set. Mm-hmm. And then P3 decided what they wanted to learn. For example, chose their own question, problem, or project to explore. P3, let's focus on P3. There are some differences there. What do you guys think? Were they able to choose what they wanted to learn? Was it an open task? Does anyone want to comment?
I don't have the impression that was the case.
No, yeah. So initially I thought, oh yeah, they can introduce themselves. So they can, of course, look up what do they want to say about themselves. And then that's the language that they are learning. But then I looked at the videos that came out, and it was my name is, I am this years old, my favorite food is, and I live in this town. Mm-hmm. So they all really said the same things. Nobody said, and I really love unicorns or whatever. So I'm not really sure how open the task was that they were able to really share something unique, perhaps about themselves. So I think there's an opportunity there, maybe to add some open-ended things as well. Bruce, do you agree?
Sorry,
I hear you nodding.
I do. I was just about to say, this is pretty much as good as you could expect though from 7-year-olds, right? So these are students who are learning a second language, maybe for the first time, and I was very impressed when I saw that. And they said they're 7, and again, they were just doing what they were told, so they were very diligent, very good students. So what more could you expect?
Well, more, so to what extent can you expect, high agency from a primary school class? And I can imagine when Alice did a similar task with her university students, that her score is a lot higher, and it actually is on your chart, Alice. Yeah. So your students had a lot more agency.
What we do not know, of course, is what linguistic means have been offered for these various questions that needed to be answered. I noticed one of the little kids, the boy, took the initiative to spell his name.
Yeah.
So, well, that's something extra done.
There was some initiative there. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah, that's true. Let's move on to customization. We seem to agree on this one. A lot of P5, not so much of the others. P5 was tailored app settings to their preferences. I personally scored this higher because I saw some students pausing and so they could rewatch the video or write things while they stop the video. So I guess there is some tailoring to the preferences there. I can't remember who said it before, but they all seem to be very capable with the iPads. Yeah, and so P7, we scored low. Customized feeds and links, yeah, that wasn't really necessary in this task design, I guess. And the same with P4. What are your thoughts? Are there any opportunities here, or was it fine the way it was? Was there no need for customization in this task? Any thoughts?
Well, I think here, Suzanne, the example you put in under P7 was a little bit confusing, because when you said, for example, tailored social media or newsfeed, I thought they were just, again, too young. It was not kind of applicable to the situation, So that's why I scored low for them, for for P7, because there were not need, to customize any feed. They didn't need to customize any feeds there.
No, but of course, sometimes you have systems like language learning tools or math learning tools that's, gives different students different questions depending on their level, and then it's customized, I guess. The feed would be then the questions that they are asked.
Okay, I see.
But that was not the case here.
Yeah.
Maybe the teacher thought, hey, this boy also likes cars. I'm gonna give that video to this student who also likes cars, but we don't really know how those couples were made. Maybe you can say there's a customized link in there, but that wasn't really visible.
Mm-hmm. There was one thing I want to say actually also the other day while I was doing it, because it is not clear from the video what the role of the teachers was there. Okay, so were they interacting, were they just moderating, just helping, or they were just conducting the activity, so meaning, giving the timing to students, the exact timing to students or not? You cannot really, take it and understand it from the video.
No.
Were they trained?
Can you elaborate on that, Ton? Do you know what interventions the teacher did during the lessons?
Yes. So following up on P7, in the PowerPoint about this case, there are some links to some more videos about this. So I have made a compilation, not to burden you too much with lengths of videos, but there you see that the teacher takes one kid apart, a French girl that has great difficulties with specific vowels and consonants in English, and she practices with her till she gets it right. So in that sense, there was some customization, but as an input from the teacher then.
Okay.
So extra support.
Okay. Let's move on to the last category, which is authenticity. And the first subcategory is the context. So the authenticity means that the mobile learning experience provides real-world relevance. And here we disagreed again. Some of us thought it was real world, some of us less so. A1 we agreed on, learned in a place suggested by the topic. This was scored low. Perhaps that is because they were not really learning about a certain topic, more about each other. And then A2 learned in a realistic virtual space. I guess we can dream up all kinds of ideas that with using some kind of VR, they could have traveled to the classroom in France. But then again, we have to look at, okay, what would that be a gimmick, or would that really real added value where they learn the language more effectively or efficiently? And 3, learned at a time suggested by the topic. Nighttime observation, stars, weekend. So that was not really relevant in this one as well. And I see. Yeah, what do you want to say? Somebody sighed as if they were about to say something. Bruce, you scored A2 quite high. Learned in a realistic space. Is that because they're just both in a classroom and it's a real space, or why did you score A2 quite high?
Learn in realistic virtual space. Probably something along those lines. Yes. They were all in a class together, so they had their peers looking at them, and. The exchange was there, so it seemed quite realistic in my opinion. Yeah, it wasn't. There were 2 or 3 sections where it looked like the students had taken maybe they were recording from home, from their own home. I guess that was also realistic too. I don't know, maybe it was a different classroom or somewhere else in the school. Yeah, but yeah, that was one reason why I did that. Yeah.
Okay.
And well, when we talk about subject teaching, of course, a science simulation, there the learning has a different meaning, I think. But for language learning, I would say that using Skype is a realistic environment.
That's true. Yeah. That's true.
And of course,
so then, so that could also relate to A1 then, learned in a place suggested by the topic. Where are you having conversations on Skype? Where are you introducing yourself?
Yeah, or the tool is realistic. Let's put it that way.
Okay, then let's have a look at the very last one. The task. Apparently drew something on here earlier. The task. They worked like an expert. They participated in real-world activities, and they learned serendipitously in an unplanned way. So they worked like an expert. We said, yeah, sort of. They collected data. They did. It wasn't using GPS, but they did collect data. They looked at the videos and wrote some down what they learned. Participated in real world environment. We scored a little bit less high, but I guess that relates to the earlier topic as well. Then they learned serendipitously, and I guess that relates to the agency part again as well. When it is set what they need to say, and we don't really know how their learning was supported. Were they just given the sentences to translate, or were they asked to think, okay, what would you say about yourself when you're introducing yourself to somebody? So I thought A6 is a little bit difficult to really judge, even though it's a crucial one.
Mm-hmm.
7.
It's also difficult from 3 minutes of video to this. Of
course.
Okay.
Of course.
I mean, for instance, again, the guy that mentioned his name and spelled it, it may well be that some other student colleague had picked up, hey, you say H for or A and B, etc. Well, never mind.
Of course, there's a lot of learning you can you can never plan for, and that's always happening. But but it's fun to think about the ways that you can design the task to make learning happen serendipitously, and then I guess it would be more open. But then again, depending on the age, what are you really expecting there?
I have a question, Suzanne.
Sure.
So what you're saying is that these students were not told what to say. They were just told to introduce themselves.
No, I'm guessing they are.
No, they've just practiced the content needed. The linguistic means have been practiced.
I see. Okay. But then they could have said that they liked unicorns or whatever they else, right?
If they had taken the initiative to ask Miss, what is so-and-so in English, yes.
Okay. But usually what happens, in my experience anyway, is that when one student has started, all the others will pretty much say something similar thereafter. So, unless they're taught it or unless they're said, then
unless
there's little chance of something serendipitously happening.
Unless you really put it in the task design that you want something different from each student. Of course, you can brainstorm with the students. What would you want to say? What would you want to say about yourself? There's different ways to go about it, I think.
Yeah.
They could have a choice of 4 and choose one of them or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My name is, I am, you name it.
Yeah. So we've gone through all of the 6 subcategories now. What do you think? Is this a task or this conversation interesting to have with your colleagues about their lesson practice? What did it give you, and how could the tool maybe be improved? What are your thoughts? What's the use of the mobile learning kit when you're talking about other people's practice, not just your own? And that's a very open question to all of you, so you can have some agency there. I personally would think it was very, I would gladly allow teachers to come into my classroom and then take a survey of what they see, and then we can have a discussion about it afterwards. I think I would have some real strong opinions on what I hope she saw and how I planned it, because of course there's always a difference in how you plan it and what is really happening. I think there's a real benefit there. Anyone else?
What I'm realizing, Suzanne, these days that we are home and we probably won't go back to school till September, at least here in Milan. That's the situation right now. I'm just realizing that actually students, they are very comfortable with distance learning, and there's a lot of personalization. When I do research, I always, get this data, positive data on personalization, content creation, blah, blah. But you never realize that in your daily life, because as we were saying, activities are all the same, okay? Right now, that they are, my students, are half of them were skiing, and then they Milan became red zone, so we could come back. So they're still there connecting from everywhere, and what they are doing is they're just producing different things. The problem here is, I was asking about teachers, because the problem here is having trained teachers. And I think this is something we should, all discuss about, because if teachers are well trained, they know what they have to do even in a distance mode, I think students feel very comfortable. So, but at the moment here is the problem are teachers. So in this situation, the survey you had, it's really interesting because it could be helpful for teachers, when they plan any activity. If they just have a look, not at everything, but, you can look at A5, for example, because you want to improve that. Then you design a task that is focused on that.
Because the whole idea of the iPAC is that it's time and place independent, and that's what you're dealing with now, or many parts of the world are dealing with that now, and in Italy especially. And we don't know for how long that will be, but if you put these ideas into practice, your curriculum will be time and place independent, and that's what we're currently working towards. So it could be, very useful for that. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Have you tried to use this framework for, also a university, with other students, because they were at primary school, so it was a school setting there. But what about larger classes or adult?
Larger. So what I have done is in workshop that I've done with teachers who are currently teaching is for their own practice. So how can you look at how you designed your task and what do you think actually came of it? But also I think there's a strong connection to teacher preferences. I talked about this many times before with Ton, but I am personally not a fan of a lot of customization and algorithms that decide what language a student is learning. I want to stay away from that. I want to have a lot of conversation and co-creation. So I'm hoping that when a teacher comes into my class and has a look at what I'm doing, the blue is actually really small. I'm not aiming for it to be really high, a high score there, because that's not what interests me as a teacher. I want to have a lot of conversation and co-creation and maybe a lot of interesting task designs. So I think it's also interesting here to what extent does a teacher have agency over their own classrooms and the task designs that they do in their lessons, and does it match their vision of what good teaching and learning is? Because some of the results can sometimes be surprisingly that, oh, I didn't actually mean to do that. So to answer your question, I've mostly done it with teachers who look at their own practice. And for me, the next step would be to let other teachers go into their classroom or come into my classroom and do it. There's also a student survey connected to this. So you as a teacher can do the survey, and then you can also send it out to your students. I've done that as well. And then it's really interesting to see, okay, how do the students actually experience the lessons that you planned for them or that you've designed for them. And of course, you would, I think, to have a meaningful conversation about that, you would also do that with, university students or secondary school students, because they can really give you feedback on, what they think is good teaching and how they experienced it. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure whether you have realized Anna is here with us as well.
I saw the chat. Hello, Anna.
Hi, Anna.
Thank you for joining us, Anna.
I rather like the tool because in teacher education contexts, especially in initial teaching, it really helps for students to have structure, to think about their designs, and in conversation with peers, develop this professional language that you need when discussing education, really. So in that sense, it's very useful. And of course, the same goes for in-service training, where people usually, at least in my experience with Erasmus, people come from all over the place and have different backgrounds, different contexts. So there too, it's a good way of exploring how the other teacher thinks about the possibilities of mobile learning. And to come back to your comment, Suzanne, again, about preferences. Well, there's every reason to follow your own preferences because you have to survive and do what you think is effective.
Yeah.
But it could also lead to realizing, hey, why is it that I don't give more agency away? Well, my experience is that with this type of students, it will be a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Or you may come to the conclusion, well, in this type of intellectual grammar school type of kids, why don't I trust them and let them go?
True. Yeah. And a lot of education is just the teacher's gut feeling, and this actually gives you some data to talk about and to have a discussion on. Yeah. Yeah.
In Kukulka's framework, which we'll be touching on soon, she calls it teacher wisdom. I think that's what we were talking about now. Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you all for your insights and your comments and the discussion. And I will unshare and hand it back to Tom.
Thank you very much, Suzanne.
Thank you for sharing your project and your project results. It was quite interesting. Thank you. Yes. So I wish you all health, patience, and passion for what we do. I'm sure we all have.
Well, thank you very much for being here, Suzanne. Thank you very, very much for this great presentation. Also, the sliding circle was very helpful and well designed.
You're welcome.
Okay. And all collaborators that send in their, that did all these tasks and send in their solutions or their views, thanks again too. And thank you for offering the opportunity to present.
Well, thank you all for being here, and on behalf of the Eurocall Association Executive Committee, thank you for supporting the association and the SIGs and sort of promoting what brings us all together, basically.
Okay. And you're closing now. Is it time?
Yeah.
Okay.
So just before we finish, Salome, will we have access to the video that you've recorded?
Hopefully, yes. It's Tony who deals with that, and
I see. No, okay.
Yeah. So it is in the system. It's just a matter of knowing where to store it so that you can have access to it. I'll let you know. Right. I will communicate with Tony, and I will let you know. Okay.
And perhaps the first one as well. So 2 or 3 weeks ago.
That's she's actually on leave at the moment because I communicated with her, and so we have to wait until she comes back and sorts it out. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Best wishes, everyone.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Stay.
Bye-bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Stay safe.
I'll keep running.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.